All right, welcome to December TriEmbed meeting. Um, don't have any newcomers, so we'll skip the welcome. How did you find out about us? Many announcements, things going on that we should know about.
Not that I know of.
All right.
I have one. We expect to have an Edger project meeting a week from Wednesday, and should hopefully have an agenda for that.
Okay.
And that will be at the Forge
in person at the
Initiative.
Forge.
Yeah, it'll be at the Forge, and it'll be in the new space in the top
Upstairs, yeah.
upstairs building. Although they have no staircase, but it's as if they do.
So you're talking about the 21st then?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, a week from Wednesday. Yeah.
Yeah, I just typed Cal space 2022 and Linux dumped me an entire calendar for the year.
Yeah. All right, I'm sharing my screen. Do people see it?
Yep.
So last month, for people that were here, we did a pickleball scoring device. This month, so I'm a juggler. I haven't done much recently, but this is the most common juggling pattern. 3 balls. And I've been thinking about putting LEDs inside of juggling balls for quite a number of years now. And you can get them on Amazon. But they just kind of fade from one color to another color. Don't do anything too distinctive. I've been thinking, well, what if we put in a 9-axis inertial measurement unit and have it do things, right? So it could detect when you throw the ball up, how much force you gave it, how high it's going to go. If you throw it with a spin, it could do one color. If you throw it with a reverse spin, it could do a different color. All kinds of things you might want to do. The thing I wanted to do is I wanted to have one color on its way up, and then when it gets to the top, change to another color when it's coming back down. And it occurs to me that nothing really happens at the top. Gravity is pulling down on it throughout its entire flight. So is this something that we can actually do, or do I need to look for a different solution?
Well, theoretically, you can measure the force of gravity, but like I said, theoretically, I doubt you could measure the difference from going up and going down.
There is no difference. Gravity, yes, there is a difference
There
based on your distance from the center of the Earth, but
Well,
there's a difference. Well, you've got when you throw it, you have an acceleration vector which is going up, so that there's
mostly up, somewhat sideways as well. But
yeah, and then when it peaks, the you have a vector going, it's going the other direction.
Right. So you could subtract theoretically the vector or the velocity from the gravity somehow, and you can tell whether or not you're going up or down. But whether or not you can get the you can actually measure that minute change. I kind of doubt.
Most accelerometers have free fall detectors.
Hmm.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and go if you want to see how well it works, just get into an elevator with a cell phone.
Well, hopefully that's not free falling.
No, but you've got a very slight up vector, when you hit going up, and then you've got a very slight down vector when going down.
But you have a. I mean, the issue is that there's nothing in the IMU that measures velocity, right? I mean, so
No, but
velocity is going up, and then it goes to 0, and then it goes down, right? In the
it's measuring
vertical
acceleration.
direction. That's right. But there is no acceleration while it's in projectile flight, right? There's no. The acceleration is given as you release the ball, and it goes up till gravity makes it stop, and then it comes down and gravity makes it speed up. And so there's a 1g force acting downward through the entire parabolic
No,
flight.
No, there
no,
is acceleration.
yeah. I mean,
No,
they're indistinguishable. You can't distinguish between acceleration and gravity. Gravity is acceleration.
gravity is acceleration, and it's constant at 1g downward through the
And
entire flight.
if you move something from ground up 1 foot, then you have accelerated and decelerated it.
Yes.
Okay, so
But if I throw it, right? Once I let
yep.
go, there's no force on it other than gravity pulling down. That's a constant. Okay, so through its entire parabolic flight, there's 1g pulling downward.
Yeah, so this has to do with ballistics. So
That's
you
right.
may want to do a little research on ballistics to find out what the forces actually are, because there's more than just gravity. If you're throwing a ball, it's the same thing as shooting something out of a cannon or a gun, for that
Yep.
matter, right?
Exactly. Yep.
So this is a ballistic issue,
Yep. So
and
there's a little bit of air resistance. It's probably small enough that we can ignore it, but potentially not. But the only thing acting on the ball once I let go is gravity, right? And nothing changes at the apex. Velocity changes, but we don't have a measure of velocity.
You just integrate. It's the first integral. Velocity is the first integral. Position is the second integral.
Derivative?
No, integral. You integrate acceleration and you get velocity. You integrate velocity and you get position.
Okay. Right. So if you know the force being applied to the ball when you release it, okay, then there is a parabola of what that's going to follow. Okay? If you know the direction and magnitude of the force that was applied to it, right, when it was let go, it should follow a ballistic parabola. And so at some time, t, it should get to the top. And if you can figure out what that time is, you can change the color after that amount of time, and it should be
But
one
but
color.
at that point, when it starts falling, it's accelerating at the rate of gravity. So there isn't the static 1g operating on it. It's
Yeah.
falling towards the Earth and
It's
accelerating at the rate of gravity.
It's accelerating downward through its entire flight. Even as it's going up, it's accelerating downward.
But that's how the free fall detector detects it that way. It's the lack of the static 1g when it's sitting still.
Take a look at the Vomit comet, where the 747 takes a parabola going up where you experience 2 Gs, and then when they hit the top of the parabola, they dive,
Right.
and you experience 0 Gs.
Right.
So the
What I'm
Yeah, you have no weight.
you have no weight.
You have no weight, and the accelerometer can detect that.
so you're saying
The
you
little mic,
you
the
have
little
weight
tiny,
you have weight
the
as you're
little
going
lever.
up, and you have
You
no
have
weight
you
as
have
you're coming down.
as you go up, you experience more than 1 G, and then when you come down, you experience less than 1 G.
And the little arm inside the accelerometer isn't pulled down as much, and so it detects the drop in acceleration as you're going down.
Well, how about another idea, and that is altitude?
Yeah, I looked at altitude for my arena leveling thing, and yes, they're very sensitive altimeters. No, they don't work very well if you're rushing through the air and your orifice that's venting to the pressure sensor is spinning around and sometimes facing the air and sometimes facing away from the air. I'll have to.
I think I have a accelerometer graphing program on my cell phone somewhere.
All right. Well, can you start it up and throw your cell phone like
Yes, I can, and I will do this for science.
over
Um,
over a 20-foot tree or something, and then show us the graph?
um,
You can throw it into a swimming pool
As
so that
long as it
doesn't
can
crash into the ground.
yeah, I was going to say, as long as it can upload the data before it hits the ground, sure.
I've got a magnetometer. Don't know whether I have an accelerometer on this phone. Might on this one. But yeah, the velocity is the first integral, and the position is the second integral. And when you the problem is that if you do it over any length of time to try and get position, you double integrate, and integrations get to be real flaky if you have a noise in the system. So that
They have those pesky constants.
yeah, but there's a I mean, they use the gyroscopes for and everything from the V2 to the the V2 had had accelerometers, basically accelerometers on it. That's how they worked out, or part of how they worked out how they're getting to London. Okay.
Were they fired from Germany?
No, they were fired from generally Denmark or France.
Oh.
You could see the arc. You'd see the initial vapor trail as it climbed up to full altitude, and then they would shut off. But they generally weren't fired from Germany.
I was going to say that's probably too far away.
Yeah, Pas-de-Calais, or there were sites in Denmark. The V3, which is an interesting thing, was a cannon designed to fire from France to England. The Germans built it, but the English bombed it, and the Germans got pissed. But yeah, if you look up anyway, that's irrelevant. I don't think I have accelerometers on, but position is the third integral, so you will have to see changes in acceleration. Otherwise, you couldn't get position. You can with an accelerometer get crude absolute position, but you have to do a double integral, and double integrals are can be very noisy. But it's
all you're doing is you're solving the projectile equation
yeah,
from the initial force.
yep.
Right.
So if you just accumulate the it's a little bit weird if you have a 3-axis, but if you just add all of the if you work out the vector in which you are moving and add it together, then you will get speed. So if you were absolutely flat, you went up and you went down, the first integral would give you your speed up and your speed down.
Velocity, yep.
Well, speed up and speed down is not going to be the same.
No, but it will if you come back to the same thing, then the speed up minus the speed down should you should have zero velocity at the end of it, and you should also have zero position.
You have zero velocity when it reaches the top, and then it comes back down, and it'll be either going faster or slower.
Yep.
When it reaches your hand, then
yeah, and you catch it, and the summation of the velocities, if it's in your hand, will be zero, because it's not moving.
Right.
And the summation of the position, which is the second integral, will be zero, because it's going back to where it was.
All right. Any other thoughts? So I think I'm convinced that we can figure out a ballistic trajectory.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm not sure I'm convinced that we can detect free fall.
Yeah, for sure you can do that. You can for sure do that. And basically, if the acceleration is falling to zero, you're going up. And if it's increasing to some maximum as you and then it goes from a maximum to a static 1G, then you've been caught. The thing has been caught. And then when you throw it, it's above 1 for a fraction of a second, and it's going to reach a point where the gravity matches. The acceleration falls away, and you reach a point where there's no acceleration on the thing at all as you go into free fall. So it really, you should be able to detect those two patterns.
I mean, certainly the velocity falls to zero when you're at the top.
And when you're at the top, then and you're stationary.
In my pocket.
When you're at the top and it's stationary, it's equivalent to sitting there in your hand at rest, and there's 1G pulling on the thing from its weight. It's weighing 1G. When it's weighing the effect of 1G on it. When it starts falling, the static gravitation, the static acceleration on it falls. And like I said, most of the accelerometers have free fall detectors, and that's how they work. They detect the fact that there's no longer 1G of force on the thing holding it in place. Instead, it's falling. And those are the gadgets that are in laptops, for example, to put the hard drives in safe mode.
Okay.
You mean where it pulls the head off the platter?
Yep.
Yes, yes.
All right. Well, maybe I will
My
actually
my
look at that.
watch, yeah, my watch detects if I accelerate my arm and then decelerate it rapidly, my watch says, "Did you fall down?" My watch asks me if I fell down, and it's doing that by going from a free fall state to a sudden, increase in uh, acceleration to come
Right.
to a stop.
Right.
So yes, your idea will work.
Okay. We'll
Do
see.
you want some accelerometers?
I think I have some.
Okay, I've got a bunch of 9-axis. Um,
All right.
Do you have enough room inside this thing, inside the balls, to actually put one of these in there and all the other crap that needs to go with it?
Imagine a tennis ball. There's quite a bit of volume inside of a tennis ball to put, one of these guys
Yeah, well, you need
in a battery, and the 9-axis accelerometer is the size of one of these little chips.
and you need some sort of microcontroller.
That's what this is.
Oh, so does that have an accelerometer on it?
No,
Some do, actually.
some do. Yep. No, this one does not. So you'd need a daughter card or something, but it's not that big. All right, let me share my screen again.
Pickleball soccer
Scorer.
score. I'm thinking of the what is it? The
World Cup.
World Cup, right?
So last month, the problem of the month was about this pickleball scoring device. And there were some interesting suggestions, some of which I've used and some of which I haven't. Thank you for your inputs there. Let's go into slideshow from current slide. So here is my prototype. I have a 8x32 LED array. It was about $20 from Amazon. Has 3 connections, one for data in, power ground data in, one for power ground data out, so that you can chain these guys together, and then another power connector for providing 5 volts. These things can consume tens of amps if you turn everything on brightly. And so I was looking for a big 12 volt, 5 volt adapter. And I found a 10 amp one at Amazon. Something to power it. This is probably way more than I need, but this is what I started with. D1 Mini, which has the ESP8266 Wi-Fi. And I hadn't added an infrared remote since I had one. I need some way to talk to this thing. I made up a little shield that I had fabbed at Osh Park. Took 13 days. It's got 2 buttons, a buzzer, and the screw connectors for the display and for the infrared receiver. 3D printed doodad, some wood, nuts, and bolts. Let's see if I can go back. So there's a wood strip at the bottom. I cut a slot in it with my table saw, stuck in a 1/8 inch piece of birch plywood with some holes cut out on the back for the connectors to the matrix. Used double-sided sticky tape, a couple of spots in here to hold it. Added a handle so I can lug it around. There's an on-off switch. There's a fuse in the wire coming off the battery. So Adafruit has a Arduino library for these RGB LEDs, NeoPixels. I used their strip library, which allows you to address a one-dimensional strip of LEDs. They have a matrix library that you can set up for 16 by 16s and 8 by 32s and whatevers, and draw graphics, shapes, triangles, lines, whatnot. I couldn't get it to compile. I didn't really want to do all that stuff anyway. I did find a fixed space font 5 by 8 from their graphics library, which was part of their matrix library, that I did use that. And then this is the infrared remote library I used. So let me give you a brief introduction to pickleball scoring. So pickleball, the way most people play it is as doubles. So you have 4 people, 2 people per side on a team. And a game is a series of rallies. A rally starts with a serve and it continues being hit back and forth over the net until some kind of a fault occurs, like somebody hits it into the net or hits it out of bounds or it bounces twice. For normal scoring, points are only scored by the serving team, although there are some variants where if you've got a lot of people at your pickleball courts and they're waiting, instead of playing normal scoring, you can play where every serve scores a point, which makes points happen more often, and so the games end up being shorter. And so under normal circumstances, there's only 2 possible outcomes of a rally. The server team wins the point, or they don't win the point and the serve advances to the next server. And so, for 99% of the interactions, all you need is 1 bit. You need no plus the current state of the game. 1 bit is enough input to tell you what to do for the score. What did that do? I'm in edit mode. And so I've been thinking, well, okay, how are we going to provide inputs to this device so that we can advance the score properly. If you had the luxury of having a scorekeeper, they could sit near this device and you could have two buttons. One button is for one result and one button's for the other result. You can use the infrared remote. It has, 17 inputs on this one. You can detect all kinds of different remotes, so there's hundreds of possibilities. I've programmed it so the up arrow button indicates that there was a point scored and the score should go up, and the right arrow button indicates that you should advance to the next server. I've thought about having, we mentioned Bluetooth buttons. I'm kind of prefer ESP now with my little D1 minis, so some kind of a Wi-Fi remote device. The D1 mini on the Score device can act as a Wi-Fi access point. And so that little remote can have two buttons, one for the one outcome and one for the other outcome. You can have two remotes carried by two players on opposite teams and require them to agree on how the score should advance. And then since it's an access point, you can host a little web server on the device and hook it up to your cell phone and tap on your touchscreen on your cell phone. And there are probably other things we could do as well. So I'm actually in the process of implementing all of these to see which ones I like and which ones I don't. And then I've also thought about, what does this bit mean? How do you interpret the bit? It could be a 1 means that the serving team committed the fault, or it could be that the serving team won the rally and should get a point. If it's that, then you have to remember who's the serving team. So there's a little bit more of a cognitive load if you have to, in your mind, keep track of the current state of the game. You can assign one team to be the red team and one team to be the green team. And you know which side of the court each of them is on. And so the bit could be, who made the mistake or who won the rally. My thinking is to go with the two remotes, a red remote and a green remote. And each remote's going to have two buttons on it that you can feel a difference in, so you know what they are without having to look at it and keep it in your pocket. And, essentially one is a smiley face and one's a frowny face. If your team wins the rally, you press the smiley face. If your team loses the rally, you press the frowny face. And once both teams vote, if they agree on the outcome, that is, there's one smiley and one frowny, then the score changes appropriately. If they don't agree, then the votes get canceled out and you can have the players vote again. So I've been thinking how I might design my remote. So this is a little device. I've got a version of it. I don't know if you can see my camera view or not. But these are AA batteries. Oh no, AAA batteries. I bought some battery terminals from Amazon for AAA batteries. and 3D printed the device, and the slot in the middle can hold a D1 Mini, or with the little circuit board I have there, that could hold one of the ESP32C3 modules that the Quarkus device was going to use, the thing that was before Edger. And Pete has a number of those that he's said he's willing to sell me a couple of. And so I've laid out a board, having it fabbed at Osh Park as we speak. I notice now that I've got solder mask on top of my copper pour here for my terminals. I'm going to solder them through this hole, but there is solder mask on top of my copper here, so I'm going to have to scratch it away or something. Fix it in the next rev. All right, demo. So I'm going to stop sharing. Well, that's kind of hard to see.
Yeah, it's bright.
So this is at
So I see 0-0-S.
well, that's good, because that's what it yeah, that once I get it a little out of focus, it
Yeah.
So when a game starts, the score is 0-0 start. So the green team has 0 points, the red team has 0 points, and it's the start of the game.
What's the max number of points?
Games are normally to 11.
Can you fit
Oh,
that
hang on.
on there?
11 by 2. So it's a game to 11 points, win by 2. Sometimes we'll play to 9, win by 1, if there aren't, if there are, lots of people hanging around. All right, so now the score is 1-0 start. And you'll notice in the corners there's a blue, a green, a red, and a yellow pair of LEDs. And those represent the 4 players. And this one is blinking. Okay, blinking to green.
Oh, yeah, I can kind of see him now.
Okay, and so he's the one that's supposed to be serving. And then if I do another point, now it's 2-0 start. And now this green one is blinking. So the green and the blue players, when they score a point, they switch sides. And so as long as this guy keeps scoring points, they switch. And then at some point he fails to score a point. And so now it's red teams. And so this guy is blinking, red. And the score is 0-5-1. So you announced your team's score first, 0. So red has 0. Green has 5. And 1 means I'm the first server on my side. And so maybe he scores a point, and then he fails to score a point. And now the yellow player is blinking red. And so red team has 1 point, green team has 5 points, and the yellow guy is the second server on his side. If he fails to get a point, the serve goes back over to the green side. And that's a bug. He should be this one. This one should be blinking. When the serve comes across the net, whoever's in the right court starts scoring first. Starts